Do you want to see how to build high quality garden beds without breaking the bank and also fill them in a way that's not only cost effective, but also will be better for your plants? Well, sit back, hit that full screen button, and let's dig in. Now, there is no one way to skin a cat. There is no definitive guide to building a garden bed, and everyone's going to have different requirements. I tried to design a bed construction method that was in the sweet spot of cost, quality, and ease of construction. These specific beds won't suit everyone, but I do a little bit of everything with them, so you can easily take learnings from this video and apply to your own bed construction. And at the end of the video, I'll also give you my cost breakdown for building these particular beds, including cost of materials and soil additives. Now I'm building these beds on top of, and they'll still be surrounded by Kikuyu grass, which is a very aggressive growing grass type. So especially because I'm trying to go chemical free, I need to do a lot of prep work to make sure to kill off the grass before I'm putting these in place to help minimize the chances of Kikuyu growing back up through the garden beds. If you want to jump straight to the actual bed construction and then filling instructions, please jump to this time code. So the first thing that we did is choose your area, which is a topic that could be an entire own video. In general, open area is good. The southern part of your yard is going to be your second best option, which is exactly where this is. Next, took a lawnmower. I jimmied the height setting down to be below its lowest setting, to be cutting essentially back to dirt so that we can try and take some of this Kikuyu back. Then put a tarp over it and leave it for a couple of weeks so that as that plant tries to push back up, put out more leafy growth to obtain more sun, it's not getting that sun and it's really weakening off the Kikuyu. But there's a next step to help try and get rid of it. So let's remove the tarp and we'll get on with it. Kikuyu is an awesome low maintenance turf until you have somewhere you don't want it to grow, and then it's the biggest pain in the bum to get rid of. So now that I've cut it back to dirt and had it covered for 2 weeks, I'm going to pull up the tarp, knock it back one more time, and then we're going to take a few extra steps, but first we need to mark out where our beds are going to go. Oh, Gorilla Cart, where would I be without you? I talked about bed placement before. I know my 2 new beds will be in this area. I do need to pick the final location because I just want to make sure it's really accessible with walkways, and I'm working with quite a tight space for the size of veggie beds that I'm trying to squeeze in. I'm starting with the number 1 walkway I know I need to get right is the one that runs in between these beds and my existing veggie beds. I use a length of timber so I can visualize that walkway and give it a bit of a feel with the feet, and then I already know my bed dimensions are going to be 3 meters long and 1.2 meters wide, so I can just mark out where the other beds will go based on that first boundary, and making some small adjustments so that it all fits. And I'm going to do an additional step that you really don't have to do, but I'm going to string line out my beds. I'm building 2 beds that I want to be aligned with each other. So I'm actually making sure the 2 outer corners of each bed line up with each other so that I get a nice clean line running across both beds, and so that that's actually also square with the existing parts of the yard. And now that I have it all nicely marked out, time to move the goddamn heavy sleepers away again. To make the next step easier, I'm removing the wood, but I'm leaving the string line there so that I know where my beds are. Ugh. Next, we need to loosen off the compacted soil. If you're building deep raised beds, you can skip this step, but if you're building low profile or in-ground beds, I found this is a really important step. It's genuinely shocking how much worse the growth is when planting above compacted soil. And by the way, this activity is called ground breaking or breaking new ground. This is where those words come from. And there was meant to be 0 chance of rain today, but true to form of the valley, the 0% chance is raining. So I think we will pause that there and come back, which may turn into tomorrow or the next day. Who knows? It's the next day, and that rain yesterday never actually subsided, so lost the whole day. I came out this morning before everyone was up. I finished just loosening off all this turf, and now we can actually go through and then remove this. An additional step I'm taking to help fight off my Kikuyu grass and also help get a little bit more depth of quality soil is just removing the top layer of Kikuyu roots. These actually come up really easily once you've loosened off the soil. If you follow this method like me, you'll end up with some chunks that the fork can't get up. Those will just be deeper runners and roots that you can just come in by hand and just grab them out. We're going to put cardboard underneath this, so just best efforts to get rid of all of these spare runners, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's talk about construction materials of the Exterior of the garden bed if you're like me and going with raised beds.
The material I've chosen to go with, as I feel they're a really great bang for buck, are these Bunnings Micro Pro Center sleepers. Building the beds this size, 1.2 meters by 3 meters and only one sleeper high, it works out to be $79 per bed. If going for treated pine sleepers, make sure to buy them with a treatment that is safe for veggie beds, i.e. sleepers treated with CCA are not safe for root vegetables as it contains arsenic.
Now I do have to do that thing that annoying DIY YouTube tutorials do where they say, here's how to make an easy and cheap thing that you can make at home. Very easy DIY, and then they use power tools that you probably don't have. Now it's not going to be that bad, but we do need to make one cut in our sleepers, and the last time I was building with these, the one place that I did come a guts was trusting that one, the ends were square, and two, they were the length that they were advertised. This one, I've just measured it out. It's 2 centimeters longer than the advertised measurement. So first I'm gonna do the one cut in the middle, and then I'm gonna flip over on each end and just square off the ends so that these end up being exactly 1.2 meters wide, because this is gonna be the interior dimension. And I really wanna have that perfect 1.2 by 3 meter interior dimensions.
After cutting the 2.4 meter sleepers in half, I'll lay out the sleepers in their approximate final locations.
All right, so even though these are completely Instagram ready, I do actually want to garden out of them, so we're gonna actually put them together. What I'm just going to, now I'm pretty fast and loose with building this stuff. I mean, they're garden beds, they don't need to be like that structurally sound. I will try my hardest to make sure to get them level and square, so I'm just gonna go by each corner and make sure to completely square it out, which I've already done with this one. Get this nice and flush. I have already half screwed these into where I want distance-wise. If you want to drill pilot holes, you will minimize the chance of splitting. It's the next day again, and man, this week is a fever dream. I have a 4-month-old that's not really sleeping, and then at about 3:30 every day, I come out here, start working on these garden beds and just this sleepless haze. Now we get to actually start with the proper bed construction. The first stage is going to be chucking cardboard in the bottom. If you don't have much spare cardboard around, or if you only have stuff that's like that glossy cardboard that can have some other chemicals, you can just buy rolls of corrugated cardboard. It'll work perfectly fine. This is $19 from Bunnings for 1.2 meters, which is, funnily enough, the perfect size of the bed, 10 meters long of it. I do keep every single cardboard box for the next time that I make a garden bed. It's just that I don't really buy that much stuff anymore. I do recommend that any labels or these sort of stickers that you see on any of the boxes, pull them off, because these actually do have a plastic coating. And if you have never heard of using cardboard in your garden beds before and might be suspicious of maybe some chemicals or something they've used in there, brown cardboard with black ink you can actually use in certified organic farms. That is how small the amount of non-natural chemicals that are in the cardboard. It's basically 100% carbon, which is great, super biodegradable, and it's certainly, I mean, in reality, we're trying to solve a problem, the problem of weeds and grass coming back through the bed. And I would much rather have a biodegradable 99.9% chemical-free cardboard at the bottom of my bed than a plastic landscaping fabric. Now I finally get to do the final part of the raised bed exterior construction, and that is, if we were to fill this with soil right now, even though these are quite thick sleepers and quite strong, they would still bow out on the longer lengths. So I need to drive some stakes in, attach it to the sleepers to hold them in place. So for this, I am just using 600mm garden sleepers. These seem to be the best budget option. With my last raised beds, I actually used another length of the sleepers themselves to hold them in place. It did seem to be a bit overkill. This time I'm hoping this cheaper option is going to work just as well. And you can buy purpose-built sleeper holders for these, but reading some reviews, they seem to not actually do that great of a job. Know what they say, measure twice, whack once.
the bed exteriors are finished and staked firmly into place, we can finally get to filling them. First, we're going to start with a layer of logs and thick branches. This will save us money on soil, but that's not the only reason you use them. Over time, microbes will come along and eat all of the sugars out of the wood, just leaving behind a hollow cellulose structure, which kind of looks like this and acts as a sponge in the bottom of the bed. It will take about 18 months for the logs to get to that point, but after that, you will have a slow-release fertilizer for decades that will also help regulate the moisture in the bed. These beds are quite shallow, so I'm only using a few logs sparingly, but for deeper raised beds, use an entire layer of logs. In my deeper raised beds, I have entire trees laid down sideways. Next, we're going to fill the bed with increasingly thinner branches, sticks and leaves. This is also a great time to get onto your pruning to help bulk out your beds. Regardless of the total depth of your beds, you want to try and layer this up to be about 20 centimeters from the top of the beds. It might look like I've overfilled these a little bit, but they do squish down a lot once the soil goes on top. Once I've filled the bed, I go back over with a pair of hand pruners to cut up any awkwardly shaped branches to help the bed sit flat. Over the next few seasons, these sticks and leaves get broken down into this really nutritious layer a bit below the soil. And they'll help keep the soil aerated, which your plant roots really love. And give each layer a good water, it'll help it break down quicker, and it's a lot harder to get this layer wet once the soil's on. Speaking of which, it's time to talk about soil. If money was no object, the best option is to fill them with bags of premium potting mix. But that would cost you hundreds of dollars per bed. Also, please check out the Patreon, this video is quite expensive. Assuming you don't have access to free soil, let me give you your best budget option. Side note, whoever came up with the saying dirt cheap has clearly never had to buy dirt. Find a local landscape supplier. Most of them will sell a product they call veggie mix, raised bed mix, something along those lines. Per litre, this will be about 10% of the price of a bagged potting mix. A lot of these businesses will deliver same day for free or for a small fee. Unfortunately, my supplier was out of veggie mix, so what I bought instead was a mixture of 2/3 premium topsoil and 1/3 compost. And get ready for lots and lots and lots of shoveling and wheelbarrowing. For reference, beds these size are about 720 litres in capacity. And you're better off over-ordering because over time the soil line will fall as it all breaks down and compacts. Now admittedly, this landscape supply mix is going to be lower quality and lower in nutrition than our potting mix, so we need to improve it. I'm doing so with a liberal application of blood and bone and worm castings. And then I'm topping off the soil with a thick layer of premium bagged potting mix. If I filled the whole bed with premium bagged potting mix, it would have cost me about $260 per bed. Using this method, it only cost me $120 per bed, which isn't nothing, but in gardening, the number one thing you want to be willing to splurge on is your soil. And now that we've spent so much of our hard-earned on this soil, we're going to want to protect it. And to do so, we need to talk about the number one thing new gardeners overlook.
One of the biggest mistakes I made as a beginner gardener was not understanding the importance of mulch. Ultimately, all we're doing as gardeners is creating a great soil environment, and then that soil is going to grow our plants for us. And if we were to leave our soil without mulch, it'd be like leaving ourselves without a house. There's nothing to protect us from the elements. Mulch will help you save money on water and will help enhance the living ecosystem of microbes that exist in the soil. And those microbes help feed your plants. It's super important. And all day, every day, weed seeds are flying along in the air, off birds, off insects, and they're landing on the top of your bed. If they land straight on the soil, they're gonna love the conditions that you've created with all of the extra fertilizer, all of the nice wet soil, and they're gonna grow. But if you leave a nice thick layer of mulch on top, they're gonna have a lot harder time germinating. In Australia, in general, the most cost-effective option for mulch will be sugarcane mulch. However, for this particular circumstance, I've chosen to take one additional step, and underneath my sugarcane mulch, I have applied a layer of who-flung dung, which is a biologically enhanced bark mulch. It's going to help kickstart that microbiology ecosystem that's super important for our soil health and our plant health. And then on top of that, you can leave a good 1 to 3 centimeters of straw mulch. Once your beds are done and constructed, it's a good idea to keep them watered for a couple weeks. It'll really help that microbiome grow. Speaking of which, if you want to help me grow, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment. It'll also help YouTube show you other content like it. Thank you, I'm off to plant these. I'll see you next time.